Hello music listeners, underground enthusiasts, and people who still call it Twitter. We're back with a weekly track roundup. We're going to talk about a couple songs we listened to this week. Maybe you've heard them, maybe you haven't. Hey, and if you haven't afterwards, maybe you'll go listen to them. And then you can comment and tell me what you thought about them. Someone needs to comment. It's always, W. Or I guess the occasional L. But most of the time, it's just like, go Mel, you rock. I want to know your comments. I want you to comment your thoughts in at least one of these songs that I talk about. Just one. That's all I'm asking of you. Hey, that's all I'm asking. Without further ado, let's get into it. The first track we're talking about this week is Eyes Wide Shut by Shinigami. Shinigami is sort of continuing this return to metalcore that kicked off with Downpour a few months back, which was a nice blend of hard-hitting metalcore with bright shouted vocals and some pretty harsh growls that I thought sounded really good. I liked the track then, and as the months have passed by, I've only enjoyed it more. Eyes Wide Shut, which contains additional production from Cutspace, sounds like Shinigami is leaning a bit more heavily away from a poppier mix in favor of what would be safe to consider a more traditional approach to this sound and to this genre. The vocals in the first verse are what I want out of a Shinigami song like this. They're piercingly harsh and super wide and thick. The energy he brings is monumental. This sort of screeched approach is much more my speed than Downpour. He sounds super comfortable doing some otherwise uncomfortable sounding vocals. I love it. And honestly, I love the guitars. They sort of overbearingly chug along throughout the entire track, hardly ever letting up and giving room to breathe. And with a lot of his recent work diving into electronic and dubstep, it might be easy to view this as sort of a callback song, but give it your attention because it's incredibly well made with a lot of passion and talent. This is my favorite Shinigami track in quite a while. And then we have Vails with Your Demise, which is a pretty straightforward and true to genre pop punk track, showcasing the steady and choppy guitar, glossy vocal mix, and tried and true structure that all play into the benefits of the genre. The shining part of this track is Vails' vocal performance here, which captures a pretty entertaining range, moving from nasally and bright singing to harsh and strained screaming that almost kind of starts to bleed into the metalcore territory without losing the plot entirely. The chorus on it is super catchy, and it definitely leans into the overtly characterized delivery of the genre, and Vails sells it really well. I love the energy they bring, and the shiny mix definitely complements the vocals a lot. It's got good writing, it's got good vocals, and a serviceable instrumental. If you enjoy pop punk, you'll probably enjoy this track. Stella the Pixie has dropped Racecar Interlude, and on this track, Stella delivers a bit of an ambient indie piece in a way. These super slick and calming guitar riffs move throughout the mix of the track throughout the song, but for the most part, they sort of act as a grounding force in an otherwise trancey and ambient environment, perpetuated by echoey and shaky background hits, ambient noise, super roomy percussion, and these wispy and spacey vocals. It's a super cool sound and vibe that's pretty easy to get lost into. The minimal and reserved sound of the production not only accentuates the softness of the vocals really well, but it also acts as a bit of a slow build up to a nice burst of energy in the track where sliding and buzzing synths move around this cacophony of bouncy 808s and harsh background melodies. It's a super slick track. It's got a super serene ambience and atmosphere, and it has a really sonically satisfying payoff. We got a new Brody track with Ghoul. I guess that I was in a particular mood this week because we're talking about another rock track, although this is probably more in alternative or shoegaze territory rather than the punk and metal influences that we've talked about so far. Right away, these impactful and booming drums leading into a thick and thrashy guitar that sort of takes up the entire mix gives such a great first impression. It's heavy and it's oppressive, and Brody's impassioned and ghostly vocals really seal the deal for me on this sound. It's such a massive sound that I think does a great job of capturing the anguish and desperation of the themes and how abrasive and roomy it is. And I love this verse. I really love this verse. It's just a few short lines, but in those lines, Brody instantly captures the emotion and themes of the track. In this case, less is definitely more. It's poignant and it leaves an impression. And then the instrumental kicks back into gear and it explodes. It's beautiful. I love this track. I think that it accomplishes a lot with an old formula. Sendflowrs has dropped Pale, and it has some pretty great production from Pekkarot and Jolst, two producers whose work I'm a big fan of and who I think will always go well with Sendflowrs. The glossy, layered vocals sound pretty great, and the somewhat processed mix does work well with the trap influence on the track. It's a nice blend of emotional and poignant writing and some fun aesthetics and styles in the sound of the track. I think that Sendflowrs does a pretty great job at accomplishing the emo trap sound that has a bit of an edge, but overall is a vulnerable and hard-hitting sound while also making tracks unique to their discography. The vocal performance paired with the writing is an old sound that Sendflowrs innovates and breathes new life into, and I really appreciate that. Pale hits hard. It's another great entry, especially following the fantastic Devil's Cave project. I'm a big fan. You know that it's a good week when Drama Trial drops, because we have strings to listen to. Everything about this track screams aesthetic and intention. The sound design and sonic environment is incredibly well crafted. The bouncy key melodies with the sort of scrambled noise in the beginning kind of feels more like music intended for world building than just a single song, and I love that. It's incredibly engaging. The vocal mix on this is fantastic. The choppy and heavily altered vocals play into the dazzling and vivid melodies really well, and in a sense kind of feel like they're part of the instrumentation here. In a way, the vocal mix almost kind of sounds like you would hear it on like a future bass track in a way. I also love how layered the song is while also still sounding low key. Like, there's a lot going on in the production, but Drama Trial manages to keep it digestible and easy to listen to. Peek behind the curtains and you're going to see how many moving parts it has, but on the surface, it sounds pretty serene. It sounds calm. It's easy to listen to. I love this song. Ericdoa has dropped Kickstand, which is the first track coming off of a somewhat lengthy hiatus and a song released with Valorant. Kickstand kind of feels like a casual return for Eric with a good vocal performance over a smooth plug-and-B instrumental. Speaking of, I do like this beat quite a bit. The sliding backing melody under the high-tone beep sounds super cool. It's hyper-energetic in some areas and pretty chill in others. And the straightforwardness of the beat structure lets Eric do a lot with the track, having an incredibly versatile vocal performance, shifting from relaxed, low-toned rapping to fast-paced high notes and these super sharp, stuttery melodies. It's enjoyable, and it's a pretty good return for Eric that listeners will like and fans will love. Hiraeth has dropped Def, and Def really is Hiraeth doing what Hiraeth does best. These intensely melodramatic vocals shake over a roomy and brash instrumental. It's a very unique sound that Hiraeth does really, really well. It blends the abrasive shakiness of prog pop and the organic looseness of indie rock. Hiraeth creates this incredibly moody track that feels oppressively emotional, and it's pretty great. I love it. The lower range vocals that wearily croon over this beat slowly builds an energy throughout the entire track, and they sound really good in the darker, moodier mix. I'm not particularly surprised, as this is a sound that Hiraeth has quickly adopted and cultivated over time and has transformed it into something incredibly unique. But as always, I am impressed though. I'm not surprised, but I'm still impressed. If you want to feel heartbreak this week, this is the song for you. And to end things off, we have a Club 2 Tokyo track with Maple, and after about a year away, I was super happy to see some new tracks from Club 2 Tokyo with Red Dress, Autumn Perfume, She, and now Maple. And just being honest, the wait was entirely worth it. These tracks have reminded me how talented they are and how hard their songs can hit. I love Club 2 Tokyo's future funk and future bass work, but the groovy, more organic direction taken on Maple is insanely fun and buttery smooth. It's definitely still funk inspired, but instead of utilizing the hyperactive and glistening sounds of future funk, it takes a more organic route. The piano still maintains this staccato sound used frequently in future funk and in future bass, but it's slightly more loose, just a little bit, and far less processed than the other tracks. And holy shit, this bass line is so nice. It genuinely, for me, carries most of the track with how much fun it is to listen to. The entire song is just solid and a groovy jam that I could just keep on loop for hours. I'm really glad to see Club 2 Tokyo back, and I would love to hear more of this sound from them. Out of, the many years that I've been listening to them, this is already some of my favorite work. But that's going to do it for this week's weekly tracks list. I really appreciate you guys for watching. I have a lot of really cool videos coming up planned that I think are going to be a lot of fun and really enjoyable. Thank you for 5,000 views on the Sewer Person interview. Thank you for over 2,000 videos on the Trico video. I'm having a lot of fun making these more lengthy video essays and, doing interviews with artists that I respect a lot. So I appreciate you guys for watching. Catch me in the next video where I have a tell-all interview with former President Richard Nixon. Bye.